Oh, and down he goes! Right hand, left hand, and I don't think he's going to get up. I think it's all over. I think it's over. Is he going to get up? Can he get up? Can he get up? He does. Oh my goodness! Somehow Fury has managed to get up.
If you haven't already, please also subscribe to us on Apple, Spreaker, and Spotify. Just type in Brawl Boxing and you'll find us there. Thank you.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Brawl Boxing Podcast. I'm Kieran McCourt, and I'm joined by co-hosts Colin McGuigan and Ryan McLaughlin. I'd just like to start by giving a shout out to our first sponsor, 92 Degrees. They're a coffee shop which started over in Liverpool, and they've now just expanded into various other cities, such as Manchester and Leeds. So if you're in any of them cities, please do check out their coffee because it's absolutely amazing, and they've really helped us out coming on board. So thanks a million, lads. We appreciate that.
Thanks for that, McCourt. And another company which has made this all possible is our other amazing sponsor, CBD Uplift. CBD Uplift is one of the highest quality CBD available in the UK. So if you head over to cbduplift.co.uk, you can begin to uplift yourself today using code BRAWL20 at checkout. That'll give you 20% off your entire order and free shipping. Thanks a million for the support, lads. It really means so much to us. We couldn't do this without you. Also, another big thank you goes to Wow Hydrate, who have came on board as a new sponsor for us as well. So why not push it and check out their website for some great deals. Well, guys, this week we're joined by recently crowned IBF flyweight world champion Sonny Edwards. Sonny, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. I mean, I've had better. I've had worse weeks. You know what I mean? It's been good.
I'd say so. You look like you're big chilling there, Sonny.
Yeah. I mean, I've been training, to be fair. I was training earlier, and then I was chasing around my son at one of them soft play areas all day. That knocked me out way more than the training did. Honestly, killed me. And then he got about 5 things out of the gift store on the way through. That killed me as well.
Mate, I don't know how you've started training already. If I won a world title, like I'd go on the piss for like 2 months straight.
Everything's shot, innit?
I know, like you mentioned the world title. Like we'll get to that down the line and talk about obviously that insane performance from you. But we just want to know how you first got into boxing, Sonny.
To be fair, that was I was 9 years old, and originally my brother wanted to go. So, I think it was his godfather. I think a man called Jimmy Beckett. He used to be into a boxing club somewhere down in our area, Clock Tower or something along those lines. And anyway, my dad used to talk about him all the time, and we used to go see old Jimmy. And my brother once randomly asked him about wanting to start boxing, and he put us into contact, or he put my dad into somewhere to go, Roundshaw Boxing Club, and it just started from there really. And he, my brother was, I think, 3 months before me or 6 months before me. I couldn't go because I was too young. I was only 8 years old at the time, and being told that I couldn't do something, I think really made me want to do it even at such a little age. And then when I first turned 9, I think the first thing I did like that week was go down the boxing gym.
In terms of like your brother, obviously, like were you always close, like when you were growing up, and did that like help spur you on to make you want to be better? Because I take it he was quite good as a kid as well.
Yeah, my brother, he had a lot of success, you know, to start with. I mean, I think age 13, 14, he was the European schoolboy gold medalist. Do you know what I mean? He had like instant success, and then he went on to be on GB team when he was 15. I mean, that's really unheard of, you know, fighters to be on the GB squad at that age. I mean, for reference, I got on GB when I was, I think, 18 or 19. And I'd won all national titles 6 in a row. Do you know what I mean? So he had a lot of success early on. So it always set the standard quite high. And I think because of that, we always took it seriously, you know, from a young age. Like, so me coming through, I've always took it seriously. So we've always trained together. We've always been close. You know what I mean? We're brothers. I mean, I know right now we're not the best of friends, but I know brothers do that all the time. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But yeah, we've always been close, because even when we haven't, because our sort of lives and our careers have taken us all different places. I mean, we've never been shy of sort of moving to the best place or we thought could benefit us the most. I mean, I moved to Sheffield for university, and then to Marbella. Charlie was in Marbella, then he was back in London, and now he's over in Portugal. I mean, wherever we think is right, we go. Do you know what I mean? So even when we haven't been closest, like I was living up in Sheffield, we've always been close, always kept in contact. You know what I mean?
From amateurs to pros. How
Yeah.
did you find that? Because obviously people speak about it like it's a different sport when they go into the pro ranks. But like, I mean, you came in and you flourished, didn't you?
One thing that always stood me in good stead, I think, was from an early age, we learned a lot from sparring. Like the way because my dad was obviously in charge of our boxing until we got to sort of adult level.
Yeah.
We'd always seem to do be the lad at the gym that would spar pretty much everyone. Like
Yeah.
I'd be doing 8, 10, 12 rounds a night from like 13, 14 years old, maybe even younger than that. Couple of jumps out here and there, but I was always doing a lot of rounds, and because I always had quite a lot of success, I was always one of the first ones. I mean, in boxing gyms, especially some of the ones I went to, is when the weight groups come through, it's the national champions and that they get first in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just the way it works. Do you know what I mean? And so I've always been sparring a lot of rounds, but I think that paced my style a lot. So I was then getting good and boxing at a rhythm that I could maintain for 10, 12 rounds. And I think that's probably what lost me a lot of my amateur fights when I did lose. I think I lost 7. I did lose 7 out of 41. But I think it was always, there was always close fights and some that I thought I won, but maybe I was getting outworked a little bit because I would usually lose the first round and come on strong the second and third. But I found it easy, really. And the more the rounds go on, especially when the fights were a bit easier, I was finding them more comfortable. You know, I was finishing strong, I was finishing on top. And I think that played testament to my amateur upbringing. Because if I was a fighter that typically only sparred 3-4 rounds a night, then maybe I would have had a style more suited for the amateurs. I might have had a bit more success than I did, even though I did do quite well. But I think my pace was always a bit slower than those 3-round fighters. And I think that's the adjustment a lot of the elite amateurs they struggle with. They get so used to being so good at bursting 9 minutes of pure energy that's their rhythm of how they fight now, if that makes sense. So they have to learn to slow themselves down a lot. And I think that's what they struggle with, because when you're a really good fighter and there's a lot of opportunity in front of you, it's easy to get carried away with taking it. But over 36 minutes, it's impossible for a lot of fighters, for most fighters even, to maintain what they could do over 3 rounds to do over 12 at the same consistency. But because I was quite slow and laid back and used to use my mind a lot, I don't think I really had that learning curve, if that makes sense.
Speaking of the amateur game, did you see the tweet Jamel Herring tweeted last week of you and him at the Olympics holding the flag? That's absolutely epic.
Yeah, funnily enough though, I tweeted that the way he got it, because I tweeted it way back when. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I was an Olympic 2012 volunteer. A few decent boxers were, to be fair.
Did you know who he was, like, growing up from then? Like, watching him, or not really, just until he came on the scene recently?
He, like, when I was an amateur, I used to be a big fan of amateurs. Like, pro wasn't, I didn't really care too much, if that makes sense, because I was fully immersed in amateur. So I knew most of the Olympic teams of most of the squads. My brother went to a lot of tournaments, which helped me catch up as well. So I sort of knew who to keep my eye on, who was beating the British lads, say. And Jamel Herring, he was a good fighter, but he wasn't one that was massively on the radar. Do you know what I mean? But at the Olympics, obviously I seen him, I walked him out as the proofs there. And it's crazy, because I didn't really remember that he was at the Olympics until quite a few fights into his career, if that makes sense. Yeah. But then ever since then, I was on to him, and obviously he's gone on and smashed it, to be honest. And he's a nice bloke as well, to be fair. But I did I walked out a lot of good fighters. I walked out a hell of a lot of good fighters. I was actually ringside for most of Paddy Barnes' fights, believe it or not.
Serious?
Because, and this is why I was always a big fan of his, you know what I mean? The other lad at 49 kilos at the time was me and a lad called Harvey Horn, who's still on the circuit now. He was on Team GB. went to all the Worlds, Europeans and whatnot. But me and him was in one team of 6 doing this volunteering. So they kind of made it away so we'd catch a lot of the 49, the lighter weights as well. Like, just because they could easily do it. And I saw quite a few of Paddy's. I know I walked out Zhu Shimin, but I'm not sure if it was that fight.
Oh,
But I
that's
definitely
unreal.
was ringside. I definitely was ringside. I walked out. So I don't want to get it wrong, but I'm sure I was there, and I'm sure I walked out when I think he boxed the Somba, didn't he, in 2012?
Yeah.
And I'm sure I remember sitting ringside and watching that fight.
You must have
But-
walked him out like.
But I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and watch it to see if I walked him out. 'Cause I can't fully remember.
Did you and Paddy ever meet each other?
You want to fight?
No, like did you like have you met him in real life? Like,
Oh
In-
yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
box.
yeah.
Do you understand him well?
Yeah, I know Paddy. Yeah, no, Paddy's a good lad. I know there was a time when I was sort of gunning for that fight, but
yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was like a wee rivalry for him.
nah,
between you two.
you know what it was? Don't get me wrong, he just had something I wanted, and if I'm perfectly honest, I thought I deserved more. Like, and we're cool, me and Paddy. Do you know what I mean? I've not seen him since, to be fair.
So you don't know if you're cool or not.
But we're all right now because I think even though it was probably irritating him at the time, he knows deep down that it was just a boxing thing. I was a young, hungry prospect calling out everyone, and he just happened to be the biggest name and the one in front of me. He was ahead of me. Do you know what I mean? So I think he understands it. But the moment that he wasn't there, it was by the by. I mean, I think as flyweights, you do have to maybe do that little bit more to stand out. Obviously within boundaries, but you need to get people a little bit more excited about you because there's so many good fighters at these lightweights that don't really catch the limelight. I mean, obviously, Paddy was off to a winning start because he had such a great amateur background. He'd been there, done it. He was a recognised name for Ireland. You know what I mean? But I didn't have that, so obviously I needed a fight of someone of that caliber to lift me up to any sort of platform, if that makes sense.
Your first pro fight was in Spain. How was that whole experience? Because I mean, your Instagram game would be even stronger. Imagine with a bronze tan coming out from Spain. But them bath stories would be incredible.
Yeah, but you know what? I did like it over in Spain when I was living there, but I
Yeah.
think I used to stay inside a lot when I was training. You know when like you're working out, you don't really want to sit in the sun all day.
Yeah.
And I would be there boring playing Xbox or PlayStation or whatever I was on at the time. But the debut was quite a funny one, to be honest. A few things went off. That's funny. It may be a story to tell another day, but I'm not going to get into it now. But a few things before my debut that went off that kind of do make it stand out. Say like, you know, everything that could go wrong probably was going wrong. Do you know what I mean? It was. I wasn't sure if I was fighting because of the board hadn't part. There was loads of things. You know what I mean? But when I got there, it was crazy because like I didn't even know this was legal. Right? There was like a boxing fight, then like a kickboxing fight. Do you know what I mean? It was like I didn't know this was legal. But yeah,
It's probably not. I actually don't think it is legal.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I hope you don't think you fucking is doing kickboxing and kicks in the head.
So your rise to the top, you know, like through the pro game is like a bit different than most young British fighters that come through. Because after the Derbyshire fight, I noticed that a lot of your opponents had winning records, so a lot more wins than they had losses, and we don't normally see that. You know, even at the minute when you're looking at, you know, like prospects coming through, it's all like they're fighting journeymen. You didn't really go that route. You had a couple of those fights, and then you fought everyone with winning records. So do you think that's helped shape you to get to the level that you're at now?
Do you know what? Don't get me wrong. Some of those winning records, like I knew getting in that they were trash. Do you know what I mean? Like, let me be real. Like, not in a. I mean their records. You know what I mean? I mean not the fight. The records are trash. But yeah, I think even with my earliest fights, I mean Tasimov, I got one offer opponent and I took it. Do you know what I mean? It was my debut. I didn't know. Do you know what I mean? But apart from that, I always kind of was pushing them for. I want the fighters that other people have seen. So, you know, Brett Fider, Craig Derbyshire, you know, and they were typically seen as, oh, they can cause an upset. Do you know what I mean? If they are on, or they can at least make someone look not that great if they're not. that good. So they're the sort of fights I wanted for my early journeyman. And then after that, I was just very, very ambitious. I was starting to call people out, I think. And I was always getting offered a few opponents most of the time. You know, like you get like 2 or 3. What do you think about these? And I would always pick sort of the hardest one or the one. Do you know what it was? I picked the one that I thought would give me the most gain, like in stuff like rankings, titles, their box rep points, you know, weird stuff like that. But things that I thought would help them be at least a little bit more legitimate. So through that, I sort of worked the way through. Like I never said no to a single opponent. I never did. I said yes to everyone that's come through. And I'm a very easy person, I think, to deal with when it comes to that thing. I like to fight, but I always sort of picked no, I didn't pick the opponents they got offered to me, but the ones I selected out of the offers, I always went for the hardest threat. Like I remember saying to some people about in my division, they were fighting light flyweights, blown up to super flyweight, just to make it look good for a title. Do you know what I mean? And I got offered some fighters that have good record, decent lads, but they were like really like flyweights. And I said, I can't be saying this to everyone else and doing it myself. So I sort of, with my mouth, I was backing myself into corners that I didn't want to contradict as well. You know what I mean? So I just picked fights that I knew that I was learning at. I never went in any fight thinking, I'm going to knock this one out, or because, you know, them sort of fights, you're not learning nothing from. I could have easily picked 10 fights, the first 10, where I can iron people out. Like, I've proved on, you know, a couple of occasions when I'm supposed to stop someone, I stop someone. Do you know what I mean? But all the ones that I don't look like trying to, because I know I don't need to in them fights. They're proper fights. You know what I mean?
At what point did you sort of think I'm ready for the world title shot then? Because like you were in no rush. You're like 25. A lot of people could have waited a lot longer. When were you like, fuck it, let's do it now?
I feel like I've been calling for these sort of big fights for a long, long time, to be honest. Way before I should have. Do you know what I mean? I remember sort of mentioning world titles probably about 8, 9, and 0 when I was winning the WBO European.
Because you moved down a weight, didn't you? Because you didn't feel like you were getting at super flyweight. You didn't think you were going to get your shot there, so that's why you moved down a weight, because you were so eager.
No, just to what I did was I originally wanted to always be a flyweight. Always. Yeah. I was 49 kilo as an amateur. I'm really a 50.8 kilo. But funny enough, we've already spoken about him. Paddy Barnes at the time was WBO European champion. And that's the route they wanted to take me. And because he had that, weren't going to fight me, didn't want to fight me, and weren't going to vacate because he knew that it was me coming through, I think maybe. Or just didn't want to vacate. I had to fight at super flyweight, but it was like a catch weight. It was like 51 kilos. It was just over the flyweight limit. For the opponent, not for me. I'll fight anyway. But he was really like a flyweight, even / light flyweight, Ross Murray, to be fair. But he was an unbeaten lad from Scotland. But because of that fight, then I had a title and a ranking now at Superfly. Like, I couldn't be on the phone to everyone asking them to come down to like a little just above flyweight. Yeah. It's like, who does that? I'm not Canelo. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's the Sonny Edwards, mate.
Can you imagine?
You do that now.
You wouldn't have to fight me at 51.3. It just wouldn't go down. So because of that, I got offered like the Ryan Farag fight at super flyweight. And he was a bantamweight coming down. So I'm really a flyweight all this time. I'm a flyweight. When the 2 times I've had to make it, Guarneros and now Moruti, I've made it with relative ease. Probably easier if you look. I look better on the scales than I did at Superfly. Probably because I knew I had to take it more seriously, because I knew it was a harder weight to make. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely a flyweight. But I was just fighting as much opportunities and getting as much rankings at super, just because that's where my place in boxing was at that time, if that makes sense. But I did know that physically the world super flyweights would have been too much for me at them times. You know what I mean? They just would. I needed to go through more and prove more to myself for the physical size and the power that they're possessing. But I always knew I'd be ready at flyweight. That was always the plan. I mean, if you remember, I dropped to flyweight, I think September 2019 against Guarneros, the lad that beat Tommy Frank. That's sort of when I was setting my stall to make my assault at a world title then. So I went down and won the IBF International, the same title I won against Asomba. I mean, my fight before Moruti, just at flyweight. I won that, and my plan then was sort of one more fight, world title. That was my route in my head. But then I got offered the curveball was the British title against Marcel Braithwaite. So obviously I didn't mind sidetracking my route to world to go pick up a British title. You know what I mean? So it's. I really like. I think people will gather it over time more, but I really don't mind fighting at any weight. If I think I can beat someone, I think I can beat someone. It doesn't matter.
Croydon Canelo. That's That's it. Like
Sonny Edwards runs boxing.
Yeah, just between flyweight and maybe super bantam or something. No, I won't go to.
Close.
What was the difference in mindset then getting into a world title fight? Like, did you need to tone down sort of the Warzone plan or anything? Sort of.
Do you know what? I was wounded. Yeah, this is no word of a lie. I moved house about 8-9 weeks out of the fight. I always do this. I have a big fight, yeah, then I move house, have a baby. I don't know why I do it.
What a life.
I do it. No, I'm not even joking. I do it. But so I moved house, and you know when you move, and in these COVID times, they were telling me 7 weeks, no internet, or they gave me a hub. They gave me a hubby and everything. Don't worry, it's basically the same. It was not basically the same at all. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
For 7 weeks, yeah. Couldn't even play. No, I couldn't play game. I couldn't, and it was killing me, to be honest. But I managed.
Have you not played Warzone at all, then, Sonny?
I've been on since, because just before my fight, maybe 2-3 weeks before, my internet came on, so I was back on. But at that time, I was sort of out of practice. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
It went low battery. But by that time, I think I was a bit out of practice, to be honest.
But see if we're thinking about that fight, Sonny, right? Was it weird for you because you were friendly enough with him, you'd sparred him, or did that give you more confidence going into it?
Neither, because I don't buy into any of the mind games, the bravado, because for me, I feel like you see them from a mile off there. Do you know what I mean? So there's never anything I feel the need to get involved in, even in the fights I have had a back and forth. I'm never the instigator. I'm just the replier. Do you know what I mean? But neither, to be honest. I'd never actually sparred him, but I'd seen him up close. We did each other's corners for a couple of the rounds. But it could be borderline arrogance. It probably definitely is. But I always think I can work out any fighter and I can beat anyone, especially when they're my weight and maybe a couple of weights above me. Like, it is probably arrogant, but I think as a boxer, you probably need it to believe in yourself to that extent where you start planning the route to doing it rather than looking at them and thinking, no, I just couldn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always knew he was good because, if I'm honest, me and Jay was sparring the Ukrainian the first time and Moruti wasn't there. When he came the second one, it was like the Ukrainian kid was like the bully to me and Jay. Not like we weren't doing wicked in the spars, we was, but the way it was sort of set up, like we was the sharper ones, he was holding his feet, comfortable in the pocket, you know what I mean? But when Moruti jumped in, it was like the roles were flipped on its head, you know what I mean? So I instantly knew that, wow, okay, this is, you know what I mean? When he jumped in, it's like a different fighter was against Moruti to us. His style, the way he was moving, what shots he was throwing, great both ways. That's why he's a world champion, Dalekayan, but like, it showed the respect that he had for him. But I just don't really think I have that, because I box the same way. My style won't change for what's in front of me. Their style has to change to try and solve my puzzle. So I don't even really watch too much of my opponents, because when they're fighting another opponent that's not me, it's going to be a different watch to when they're fighting me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if anything, I just start looking at them like, you're absolutely lethal, and what am I doing getting in the ring with you? Do you know what I mean? Like, kind of, like with Moruti, honestly, I was saying this the other day, I've realised the fights have started getting harder when I stopped like researching, studying my opponents. Because, you know, when all their highlights of them knocking people out and just looking wicked doing it, it's like, I don't want to watch that.
Couldn't think of anything worse, like sitting the night before and just watching your opponent knocking dead.
Just levering people. I mean, do you know what? I was really calm all fight week, I was really calm. The night before, like, this might sound like I'm trying to tell a story or something, but I've never slept better. One, because I did my weight properly. This is the first time I've done my weight properly. Eating all week of the fight, drinking loads of water, everything right. So I didn't have dry mouth overnight before my weigh-in. I was 5 pounds under my weight. I was way under, do you know what I mean? With a mask on and whatnot. But I'd never done the weight easy. And I think I was just so calm and relaxed. Like, I shocked a few people, I think, that was there and around the scene, because to everyone, this was sort of like a tender hooks fight. It really was. And I remember one thing I can really remember from the night is, as I was walking into the ring, I looked up at the balcony. I took 1 second to just take it in and look up at the balcony at the people that was there. And, you know, normally when you're in the ring, as a pro so far, most definitely, most times you look at the ring and everyone's happy. They're waving at you. They're like, yes, I'm here. Look, you see me. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like no one wanted to look at me dead in the eyes. You know what I mean? It's like, I could feel the nerves on that top, the little row of people. I had 2 rows. I had the people, and Lyndon was there basically shaking, and people pacing it. Do you know when you think like, yo, I've got this.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I said this to boys the other week. I've always wanted to ask, and I always forget to ask boxers when they're on, like, how they sleep the night before. Because, like, I struggle to sleep at the best of times, and like, knowing you're getting into a world title fight the next day, like, surely I've seen like fighters sleeping in the changing rooms. I think I've seen Canelo do it before Kovalov, where he was like sort of drifting off to sleep. That's psychotic, like.
Normally the worst is, and I'm talking about the worst night of sleep of the year, like, is the night before the weigh-in. If you've not done it well, like, to the point of you don't need a drink, you don't need something to eat, and that's hard to do. That is really hard to do. Yeah. If you don't do it well, wow, I'm falling asleep at 2, 3 a.m., waking up at 5, waking up at 5:30, waking up at 7s. You know what I mean? Like, literally that drags. It's like.
But that's probably more, I assume the night before weigh-in, it's like you're depleted, your body's,
what I mean.
But so like the night before, I'm talking pure nerves, like the mental side, overthinking things. Is it not hectic usually?
Well, yeah, because but normally you have that night of absolute. This is what I was getting onto. Sorry, you have that night of torture. Honestly, it's the worst night of the year. Honestly, it's horrible when you're in a place where, not that you've killed yourself, but you know, when you're dry. You haven't drunk anything. You haven't eaten nothing for the last 12 hours. You know what I mean? That's typical for a lot of fighters, believe me. Yeah. But when you eat, you then fill up your belly. You're not even focused too much on the fight. You're just. It's like, it's hard to explain to someone that's never really made weight before. But once you jumped off those scales, like, times are good again. You know what I mean? You can that bottle of water. You can drink as much of that as you want. See that plate of food? You can smash it, you know what I mean? So you have that little buzz, and then you have a full belly. And I always sleep very nice after the weigh-in. Always have, no matter what fight I've had. I've never been up all night on nerves, to be honest. Just normal routine. Me, I sit on my phone until my eyes get tired and go to sleep.
That's you.
Normal routine.
Sonny, obviously after that big win, it was unbelievable for you, and it's really catapulted you now to do what you want, maybe turn into the Croydon Canal. But what do you think is going to be next for you then?
I'm waiting to find out, to be honest. The IBF posted something where it says the champion on the ratings.
Yeah.
That the mandatory is due January 2022, and I'm waiting to see what the crack of that is, because obviously that would leave me time to get in a voluntary. I don't really know, to be honest. Moruti mentioned about having a mandatory straight after, but I don't know if it fits the same for me because I'm a new champion. I'm really not sure, but whatever. Do you know?
Has anything changed for you since you became world champion? Do you find it like different? Or are you getting more like media requests, that type of thing? Or
to be fair, I don't want to say selective because that's not really the word, but I don't really feel the need to be sort of jumping, every sort of media.
Yeah.
I've never really wanted to be famous. I just like being a boxer. If that makes sense.
We're privileged, Sonny. We're privileged.
I was going to say.
Well, you know how you got this one, because we played Warzone. I agreed way back when. Otherwise, no chance.
I
At
carried
least
it
you're
in the
honest.
Sonny.
Just like to give a shout out to Manscaped, one of our sponsors from the USA. If you use our discount code BrawlBoxing, you'll get 20% off all Manscaped products on their website and free shipping. So please get all over that. Sonny, I seen that guy tweeting you. Like, obviously, you get a bit of abuse on Twitter, and you throw it back at the right times as well to them. Like, but seen that guy who was in your DMs asking you for like an interview or something, and then he's just absolutely battered you all over Twitter. Like, what's
See,
that all
one thing
about?
about me is I've got a very good memory, and
Yeah.
because I pay attention. I've got like a quick mind. I like scrolling. I like knowing what's being said about me. I think knowledge is power. Even if you don't mention it, you don't say anything at the time, you can just log it up there. And I've done this on numerous occasions. You have people that like this bloke. I forget his name fully. I think it's something Aldous. I think.
Don't even shout him out. You'd love that.
He
Yeah,
doesn't
but
deserve
him,
it. Like.
yeah, but him, I seen a few threads of him just being over negative. I mean, you can pick against me, like honestly, 100%. Even if someone I know puts on Twitter that they feel I'm gonna lose, I'm not sitting there hating. Like, you can have an opinion on boxing, I genuinely don't mind. But when you start saying stuff like, "Oh, is anyone picking him, the other kid?" and then following on by saying, "Well, if Sonny's as good as he says he is, then he'll win every round or something," it's like, hold on, you're picking the other way. You're picking me to lose in a fight because you think this opponent's good enough to beat me, but then saying that to be as good as I think I am or saying I am, then I have to win every round. Do you know what I mean? It's very like a negative side. And then he did say a few more things I can't really remember. And then he mentioned my hair, which I didn't really care about because I knew I looked stupid with my hair. I knew that. I was well aware. Yeah. But then, yeah, months later, during the build-up of this fight, he emailed me. He didn't go through Twitter. He emailed me. I never get interview requests from emails. I mean, that's a weird. For the most part, the only people I really get like let interview me are people that have put time into me, really, you know, in the build up. Like, I can't, the only interviews I've really done, to be fair, are people that I wouldn't say no to because they gave me their time when perhaps I've had people that used to travel from London to Sheffield to sit down a camera and speak to me for 45 minutes and get like 800 views on a video. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how can I say no to someone like that? I can't. I wouldn't. So yeah, like, apart from that, like, I've even had some people ring me for interviews with other people, and it's, you know what I mean? It's I'm a hard man to get hold of because you know, you spend a lot of time talking about boxing. Do you know?
Yeah.
Especially after like a build up and after a fight. I mean, eventually, I mean, I was today with my kids and I had like 2 or 3 calls that I just didn't answer because I'm running around being a dinosaur. You know what I mean? I'm being a T-Rex. So I'm not trying to stop that for nothing's that important. It can wait. You know what I mean? Nothing's that important. It can wait.
100%. Well, saying that, we really appreciate you coming on. Before we let you go, I know you're probably sick of hearing this question, like everyone in the boxing world is, and it's also look a bit in jeopardy at the minute. But if the Fury and Joshua fight goes ahead this summer, who do you fancy?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to pick one or the other because I change my mind on that constantly.
Yeah.
I also know them both as well, and I like them both. So it's one of them for me. I mean, but I think because of how big they are, right? I think you'll find this a lot because of how big they are and influential they are in, especially British boxing. Most boxers will sit on the fence for this because they probably have relationships with both of them. They're that influential that they've probably crossed paths with most boxers in Britain. You know what I mean? Really, like, I would say that. And it just is the biggest fight. I mean, I know Wilder's thrown his curveball in. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on.
If you were him, would you take that step aside money, Sonny?
Oh, it's going to be good step aside, isn't it?
I know.
It's going to be good, and he's probably just going to get his arse handed to him by Tyson. Might as well. You know what I mean? He might as well, but I think if I was Wilder, if he could get in a way to guarantee the next opponent, which you think he'd be able to, maybe. I don't know how contracts how much there can be stipulations, because I know they've got rematches already, so I don't know what they could do there. But yeah, if Wilder could get a crack at the winner of that, which he'd probably likely to be because he's the only other person. Well, you could say Ruiz, but I don't think he's really got as much of a claim to the world as Wilder. But yeah, if he could somehow get himself in a guaranteed spot for the winner of that, then maybe he should take the step aside money and let all the belts come under one. But at the same time, if I was Wilder, and say if it was in my division, something like this was happening, and I had my turn to be like, nah, you're fighting me, I 100% would do it. You know what I mean? I can see why Wilder's doing it. Say if Martinez and Nakatani was unifying all the belts, apart from, you know what I mean? Or and I could somehow jump into that and stop that from happening, and maybe then me win and then go on to that.
You'd be all over
I'm taking that. You know what I'm doing? I'm putting fate in my hands. And that's what I would do. I'd always put fate in my hands. Never have to see who's gonna be there. Do you know what I mean? Or wait on other people and be on their timeline. No. I mean,
the only thing is,
I've got that belt. No way.
The only thing is, you're like pissing off the whole world. Like, do you know what I mean?
You probably
think
that would
play off? Sonny would love that. Your social media would be a disaster after.
You know what? There's probably more financial gain in the hate pound than there is in the support pound, if that makes sense. Like, I think more people invest in people they don't like, because we must be quite self-loathing creatures, us human beings. I mean, it's a lot of people, they do spend a lot of the day checking up on watching people that they say they don't like. Do you know what I mean? It seems to be
like
everyone's guilty pleasure.
Everyone tunes in to watch Jake Paul fight to see him get knocked out, hopefully, and nobody does. That's what I mean. Like, he's done it so well.
100%.
Oh, mate, he is like everything any boxer's ever done to sort of popularize their fight and whatnot, and pull it on steroids and times it by 100. You know what I mean? He's just the most out there. I mean, how could one of the best to ever do it in any sport could you grab their hat off and then have them scrapping you in with it? Just, it's so bizarre. It's like something that would never happen. I mean, if you were to see that video of Mayweather getting that happen to about 20 years ago, you'd think the world has gone nuts. Or 10 years ago, you'd be like, what is going on? Like, that is crazy. But you're not really that surprised by it now.
Yeah.
I know.
Did you actually see the game called out Logan and Jake Paul on Twitter and said, meet me at the Staples Center? And then they said, then he's like, once I see you, it's fate. Like, literally, as soon as I see you, you'll be eating cement. Like, the game will as well. Like, the game is mental.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like they are like literally pissing off the whole world, but they're making a lot of money doing it. I mean,
I think you need to get them at a catch weight, Sonny.
Your Sonny average weight, come on.
Yeah, no, but that's just about fly though. That. But I just don't get. I just don't get how that many people are interested in these people's lives. You know what I mean? Because the boxing people aren't putting the money in their pockets. Obviously, it's the millions of kids that are telling their dads and mums to pull it on TV. Do you know what I mean? It is quite bizarre. Like, but I understand it, because when I was coming up, when I was in school, I was watching pack opening vids by KSI and that, so I understand why people watch them. I understand. You know what I mean? So, like, what can I say? So, they say YouTube money's crazy, isn't it? When you get them numbers up,
man, that's your next move, Sonny. YouTube after the punditry career.
Oh, I know, but I just think there's enough of my day that I won't want people to see, so I don't know when I'll do the filming. I'm too lazy. I'm too lazy to do any of the filming. I don't know when I'll do it.
Well, look, Sonny, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it, and hopefully now we're part of that elusive crew that you'll maybe jump on another time with us down the line before one of these things.
Yeah, you're on the mailing list now. Don't worry. See, I'm clever, right? If you get selective about which media outlets you use, it means they always like you, so they only put nice things about you. You know what I mean?
We would do that anyway.
It's like propaganda. I'm getting the media outlets on the side. You know what I mean?
Well, thanks so much, Sonny. We really appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Legend, Sonny.
Cheers, lad.
Cheers, Sonny. Have a good night.
Another sponsor who's made this all possible for us is That Prize Guy. They're a company from Bangor in Northern Ireland which runs competitions daily. Everything from cars and PS5s to holidays and cash prizes. They've given away over 500,000 so far. And I actually saw a girl win 20 grand last week from a fiver. So it's an incredible business. Give them a follow on Instagram or check out their website. Use code BRAWL20 and you'll get 20% off any entries into all of their competitions. Thanks again for your support. Well, guys, that's it for our episode with Sonny Edwards. Join us again next week when we're back with a very special guest.
Okay.